Hello, Adrian. How are you? Welcome to our channel. Let's talk about data. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am always amazed when I can speak with somebody, not just in the data world, but on the other side of the world. And it's the technology to me is still so exciting that we can do that.
No,
So
it's
yes, thank you very much for having me today.
no, it's a pleasure. I've been talking to a lot of people around the globe, around 22 countries, as I just mentioned before we started this recording. So, just for our audience, as you are, this is your first podcast with us. Just introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. So I've been this is almost adverent to your introduction earlier. I've been working in data for about 20 odd years as well. And just like yourself as well, we look too young to have been in data for that long. And I've been working I always say actually I've been working both in and with data. Now I started my career working in financial services where I've always been, and I was working with the data. So I was very much that sort of analyst style, but also actually more in the business kind of functionality. So, while I was doing a business function, I needed to use data. And as time grew on, and as I needed to do things more complex, I started to feel that I needed to start, well, I need to bring this data and I need to house it somewhere else. Or that data just doesn't feel right. We need to correct it somehow. And it's just started to build up this sort of snowballing. And I didn't know that there was such a thing as data management or that there was something called data governance. In fact, even data as a career, data was always an IT thing. It was computers. But then I started to find myself and I was fronting this whole system, which was about the data. It wasn't about the system, it was about the data and about providing information out to users. And that's been for the last decade or so, where I've been now trying to use that business acumen, that business side of me, that business user side of me. How can I start to add value to people? How can I start to do that? So now I'm taking my first steps and my foray into the world of consultancy. So I'm now taking up the head of data position at a company called Space01. So we're a digital marketing consultancy based in the city. We're based in London.
Mm-hmm.
And we started off very much traditional marketing, moved towards digital marketing, but have very strongly in the last few years been building out UX and UI for customers in the insurance and the asset and wealth management space. And while we've been able to build out complete products from the very start, so that making it look pretty, building out the websites, building out the customer interactions, making sure those customer journeys are as good as possible, we've used actually our industry knowledge and industry experience to build a functioning product. For instance, if it could be an insurance product, it might be an income protection insurance product. We've been able to build that and integrate it into companies' back ends. So they've actually truly been able to see the value. I'm coming in now to really help supercharge and create an extra element which we can complement those products and those services. And that's how I see data. It's a complementary, something which we can use, which supercharges products and services throughout companies.
So that's a great interview, a great introduction, by the way. But let me bring in this our topic today as well,
Yes.
supplementing what you are saying, agentic AI, which is going to shake up
Yes.
everything. So when you are saying you are bringing supercharger, are you
Yeah.
referring that you are bringing agents?
It's not so much the agents at the moment. This is Agentic AI. Analytics. Sorry, I missed the last word of it when I was saying my own sentence.
Mhm.
I think that's the next real step. In fact, I was just taught this week. I've spoken to two companies who are at different stages of their journeys. One being Spot, who are a multi-billion dollar company across the world, and another one just now called Prompt BI, who are really just starting on their journey. Both of them are just trying to help users now to bridge that gap which we've had in the data world. And I think actually it's going to be quite scary talking about some of this and certainly thinking about how some of this is going to play out over the next few years. And I think it's more on that short term basis. Now, you say, how are we using it for our customers? A lot of our customers, and I wouldn't say this is not breaching any guidance or anything confidential here. And I
Yeah.
think this is actually for a lot of companies on their own analytics journeys. And I talk to a lot of people, a lot of people come to me for guidance and for advice. They're still very embryonic. I think we still have this view of people have built up, they're even companies even have data functions are able to produce analytics. And often the case, they're actually not still able to do it. There is some poor data analyst out there who's cobbling things together and trying to push out reports on every single month and hoping that these reports, they don't really differ, they don't move, so no one really asks any questions, and we just keep on going on, and that cycle will continue. And no one really gets anything from it. It's business users who are completely unserviced. They know it's not worth asking anything because by the time they get a response, the response they get back is out of date and the opportunity has probably already moved on. So I say, instead of just going from trying to do Power BI, why not actually try and do some of the AI side of things? That in itself is a pretty much like a whoa, no, 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 no. Conventional wisdom says, no, 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 we're not ready for this. No,
Yeah.
if you go and look at there's many people, they're posting every day onto LinkedIn and they're saying, no, before you do AI, you must have your data foundations in place.
Mhm.
AI is such a broad term. Let's pull that back for a second, because we've been doing machine learning for decades.
Yeah.
I've been working in banking for many years where we've run algorithms and run machine learning and insurance, which is probably some of the most worst things for when it comes to data because the amount of vacancies which seem to get posted for it. We've been doing it for decades. What we're talking about here is probably more generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think so, where you need to have more, well, you do need to have some guardrails into place. You do need to have better foundations because you're running, in often these cases, they're talking about running LLMs over areas and trying to create and generate a response. And if you haven't got it into place and you haven't got the right data quality, etc., yes, you are prone to hallucinations because LLMs are pleasure bots and they will want to please you. They will want to be able to give you a response, even if they haven't got anything to do it. You know, if you ask them, is there, tell me which planet there is life in the solar system, I wonder if it actually will give you an answer. That'd be interesting. Actually, something for later on. That's an experiment to do. Can you get a response from it? If you keep prompting it, can you actually ask it? Can you give it to get a response? So that's why I start looking at agentic AI analytics, because I think this bridges the gap here between where our customers are and where companies are and where they want to be. It stops this idea of bringing in curated dashboards. And inevitably, when you actually ever build a dashboard, regardless of how well you try to get down requirements, that in itself I have some sort of slight issue with, because you're getting someone's requirements, you're not asking them what the value is from it.
Yeah.
That, that in itself can be a problem. You know, we shouldn't be the pleasers and the pleasure bots. And in fact, one big part of it in data is to say no. Why do you need to have this? Why do you need to have 400 KPIs in a daily dashboard which delivered to you in real time? That's a real life example for me, where it was a case of you're never going to use them, are you? So it stops that loss of in translation because people can now get the information out themselves. And I think AI is becoming increasingly clever to be able to build the data models and also to try and create context, particularly around the metadata and what it actually means, where we do have multiple sources of truth. We don't necessarily have a single source of truth because what something means to you and what something means to me can be different.
Yeah.
Yet neither of us are wrong.
Yeah.
It's just our particular view from our particular function.
I think I wanted to have an idea from you that how you look into it. And you correctly mentioned that AI is being there for decades. We have
Yeah.
been doing it. Then we started calling it data mining. Then we started calling it data science. Then we
Yeah.
started calling it AI, then generative AI, and then agentic AI, the latest one. Everything
Yeah.
is kind of the
Yeah.
same. It's just
Yeah.
becoming a more fancy word. But just to bring this perspective into it, as you correctly mentioned, and I am also the advocate of that, that metadata will play a huge part into this journey, because
Yes.
you cannot have in generative AI, you normally have unstructured data sitting over there, and which unstructured data got their own taxonomy and ontology embedded into the unstructured data. So LLM is very good into examining that. But current LLM, which is we call it ChatGPT, has a generic taxonomy ontologies, but the same one if you use for banking or insurance, as you mentioned, is a two different meanings. It's not
Yes.
something right and wrong. It's two different meanings. So
It
how
is.
do you see that shift? Because I keep telling people and keep advocating, yes, LLM is good, but until unless you don't build your own context, which is in other words
Yeah.
ontologies, it's not going to work. Which
No, no,
this challenge,
completely
how
right.
do you see this challenge catering up?
Yeah, I mean, I know you had Andreas from Hakuna
Yeah,
on as a guest, didn't you? A few, and he's absolutely he talks about this because the products which he's been building
yeah,
in Hakuna, this is exactly what they're built out to do. It's to give that level of understanding, which otherwise it becomes a static data dictionary. We go down that horrible route. You know, my laptop here, it sits in my DM book by Dharma, but it doesn't really come out much now anymore because no lessons learned, to be honest. And yeah, because we can't be looking for static metadata depositories. Things like Purview, which go and scan your whole environment and try to create that single definition, that loses that just loses all sight of actually what this is really supposed to be. Because sales, but we might have sales multiple times. Now people say, okay, we'll call it marketing sales, we'll call it finance sales, whatever you're going to call it. But then it doesn't really understand of which field you're going to do. So I think yes, it's very key to try to have this metadata into place. And I think AI in itself will actually create a lot of these metadatas for us.
yeah,
There will be a human in the loop, inevitably. And I think human in the loop will remain throughout the whole AI journey. And hopefully we'll come back to the analytics later on where we can talk about that. But I think AI, we shouldn't sort of, it gets too departmentalized too quickly as being something that's automatic. And we assume AI is automated, and it's not. We can still run AI over certain things. We can even run AI over bad quality data sets and say, well, these are the outliers. We get rid of the rubbish. It understands to do that. And we will do the same things with getting that metadata into place. So we do contextualize what it is and we get the actual real proper semantic meaning that people are using when they're using LLMs.
yeah, yeah. So let me bring this to next level, right? When we say this agentic AI, and as you mentioned, well, the perception from rest of the world is, I won't say rest of the world, vendors and SI. The perception was for generative AI that it will solve everything. It crashed. Now agentic AI has come. Everybody thinks that you will what do you say? You will open the ropes for the agent and they will do sniffing and do everything. I don't believe that. Why I
No.
don't believe that is, as we correctly as the assumption is correct. Actually, the how do we call it? Foundation is correct, that agents will become your teammates. Let's say there
Yeah.
are 10 manual people, and now 8 will be agents, 2 will be human in loop. But my concern here is, till now, those 8 humans are still not data savvy.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm coming from? If you have a 10 people who are very good data savvy guy, who are in data culture, they are doing data in and out day and night, then we are saying agents can replace it. But we haven't reached that point as of now. So what do
No.
you think? this is going to backfire or how?
Don't know. It's interesting because I've been in an organisation before we had what we would call agentic AI. We used to call it robotics. So those sorts of things which would do, which is exactly actually the same arguments. Now we're probably going back 10 years, which was, can it do a task which is something that we keep repeating?
RPA. There's an RPA system.
So it's exactly, and let's be honest, that's nothing new at all. And I think we could probably say actually that's something which would go back to the 60s. There may be listeners who can correct me on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we could go back perhaps even further to say there were computers which were programmed to do the repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
And in fact, we could argue that actually that is what a computer does. It keeps churning and churning and churning to get the response. That's why they physically would move and create the calculations and the valves and the whatever else and bits of steam coming out. Sorry, I'm thinking about Wizard of Oz now. The flames coming out. And yeah, that solves some things, but when it came to the bigger issues, no. And I think that's where you're coming to here is that I try to sometimes deploy agents, but it only gets me so far.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I've never deployed an agent which really works properly.
Yeah. I have an example for that if you want me to say. Chat
Come, tell.
ChatGPT, the most famous and successful agent right now, correct?
Yeah.
Can you copy paste anything generated by ChatGPT and send it to CEO without drafting it again? You
Yeah.
cannot.
No,
You
yeah,
can. You
I,
can. So
the
it
amount of times, yes, you talk about that, there's the amount of times when I'm trying to do something and I do need I need the help, and I'm not going to go through and always try and read all the help pages. I need something to help try to summarize it and
yeah.
pinpoint where I am. Very good on the errors.
Oh yes.
I say very good on finding the errors, and that I think is great. But the amount of times I go around in circles and never mind please and thank you, it transcends into something quite something else when I'm just like, we've done this 5 times, stop sending me the same link and trying to do the same thing. I told you it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, you're gonna get me angry now.
No worries. I'm also a very aggressive guy. So you are absolutely right. So ChatGPT is helpful for those people who are the SME of their subject
Yes,
matter expert. Then even ChatGPT is then helpful. So my obvious
yes,
question comes, if a multi-billion-dollar agent is
yeah,
still not mature,
yeah.
will agentic AI as a see, okay, how it is impacting? Let me also give. I just read some report on Accenture and McKinsey. Yeah, Accenture just last quarter their marketplace was 250 billion, and within a quarter somewhere 62 billion dollar was extracted by the shareholders. Can you believe that? Around 30 to 40%. Why? Because agent people thinks consultancies are gone. I
Mm.
am not on the same page. I don't think consultancy will go away. I feel consultancy will flourish.
I
People are
think
very much,
some things,
you know,
yeah, I don't know. I do courses run by Benny Benford at Daytent. He's used to be the CDO of Land Rover Jaguar, and he's got some very strong sort of feelings. He's what he's trying to do. Actually, he's trying to build up a company which is effectively an AI agent for consultancies. And I would say a lot of project plans, high level strategies. I think those bits where people who have dealt with consultancies before, myself included, have become very frustrated. Now, when you basically all you've given me is a PowerPoint deck and very good documents, which does read fantastically at board level, but when as we start to get further down to the actual implementation, it's just garbage. And I feel we could start those ones. I
yeah,
think those bits I do. I think they're going to be found out. You're very right with what you said. I find chatbots work best when I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If I don't know what I'm talking about and have no idea on the subject, I don't know A, if it's hallucinating, or B, if it's just missed something completely off the point.
Yeah.
And as an SME, I often have to kind of bring it back onto actually. So what about this? And then it will give you to say, oh yes, that's true. I should have included that. Why you didn't include that in the first place is that's a mystery of algorithms. But I do agree with you. Yes, consultancies will probably exist in some form. I do think they'll change as well. I do think a lot of the stuff which is, I don't know, I wouldn't even call it the softer materials. I think it's more the fluff will begin to disappear. And I think companies will be able to say, well, this is what I want to achieve. Please, can you help me do this? Rather than it was bring somebody in to have to write the document to begin with and then go away and doing it. So I think the roles will just change slightly. I still think it will be there, but not in the same way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The role will change. Where I come from is if last time you were able to implement 10 products, or we call it data products in a year, now you
Yeah,
will be able to implement 100. Who is stopping you?
potentially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there was always more requirement versus human resource. We were
yeah,
always short of human resources. So why we are even complaining, I say that agents are here. We should be happy. We should be happy that Tesla is here, driverless car is there, so I can do my some meetings in the car without driving. We should be happy, not against it. And I think it's so funny, right? When I see that last time it were vendors who were creating automation, actually everything is automation, to reduce the workforce of customers. Agentic AI came, it is reducing the workforce of vendors. How amazing
yeah,
is that? Right? It has
yeah,
gone the other way. Now vendors are scared what will happen to them. I think that is very pessimistic in my point.
yeah, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I completely see that. I mean, I've heard people say that SaaS is dead.
Nadala said,
And yeah, there is a very strong. I mean, I know we've had a lot of examples where we had, was it Klarna who said that they've managed to get rid of Salesforce by running through from a chatbot, and that wasn't necessarily true. And PayPal said that they can get rid of all their customer agents, and we have seen things
agents are
happen.
fine. If you talk about, see, I see agentic AI and generative AI getting successful on unstructured piece. I totally
Yeah.
get it. But the moment you go into structured piece, I don't believe it can change. It can do good as of now.
Yeah, yeah, we may do. That's why I was when with the introduction, I was talking about the analytics and the agentic analytics, and that's the bit where I feel that it can still build a bridge, not just in your unstructured, but certainly in the structured side of things as well.
Yeah, you're right.
But,
Let me add it here, a question for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
When we talk about structure, I believe it can do, but not at this point in time, because to work on structured data, you need to be super good metadata. You need to have a proper metadata in place
yeah, yeah.
and taxonomies
I,
and ontologies. And I think that is
it's
what the piece is
yeah,
missing as of now.
it will depend. A lot of these things, it's all of this stuff in data is always depends. It's applicable. What state are you in? Because I would say for some simpler companies, even bigger companies, but relatively simple structures. Now, there's some companies which do reality, they only have one or two products. Now, those products may be consumed in different flavors,
Hmm.
but they are simply the single product. I'm thinking from my background in credit and in lending, the product was a loan. Yes, it was different forms of the loan, which could be consumed, but effectively it was the same loan. Now, a metadata isn't actually that complex when you start to strip it back. I think in the data world, we like to revel in complexity. Whereas to me, I often think of KISS as in keep it simple, stupid, not the American band, because when we do that, then it becomes more manageable, and we might start to see more. I do think we have got it, and I have seen it in action now. Like, there are companies who do have some of the aforementioned analytics companies who I've been talking with. They do have it in action. Now they are using it. How much effort they had to get there to get it to work, that I don't know. That I don't know. And that would have been an interesting one. So instead of me hearing the conversation from the customer, and this was on the stage of, no, what can you do now? What would have been interesting to actually hear of, how long did it take for you to get there? Because that's where we start to lose the ROI.
I was about to say that
Yeah.
every product is about whether you are meeting the ROI or not. Because structured
Yeah.
data is such a mature domain and is being for decades. It's so cheaper to implement things in structure as compared to unstructured. But
Yeah.
as Inmon said, right? I was in a session with Inmon as well, Bill Inmon, and
Yeah. I'm jealous. Are you in a session with him?
yeah, I'm in contact with him, fortunately. So I asked him, I said,
Drop that name.
I asked him, Bill, why? So it was a simply very simple response, but I felt very stupid in front of him. Of course, he's a guru, right? He's the guy. I said, Bill, I don't see any structured data use case successful in LLM, which is for unstructured data. He simply said one line, why you want to convert structure into unstructured? We normally convert unstructured to structured. That's human nature, which is fair, which is fair. The
Yeah.
structure means we assemble things here to here. Now we are saying things are assembled, disassemble it.
Yeah. I think where it's just, you are very completely right. We like symmetry as well.
Yeah,
We like structure and we like symmetry. If we don't have it, sometimes it can set our minds to go a bit crazy. And we just need to go and correct it somewhere. I certainly do that. But I guess what we kind of get is unstructured answers of structured data. That's where to me, self-service analytics. How long, many years have we been talking self-service analytics? And I went to a Power BI demonstration when it first launched almost a decade ago. And they said you can use natural language queries over this to get a response. I don't think they probably used the word natural language queries. They probably said, you type it as you want to. That obviously wasn't true. I mean, the concept had been there. The concepts have been around this for many, many years. We haven't had the technology to do it because we've never had the computing power to do it. And it'd be very interesting as we get into the quantum age of how much further we can get to go and how much we can process. Um, but that, to me, that is the golden egg. That really is. If we can say, if I can give a tool to a business user, they haven't got to go in and filter things. They haven't even got to ask me for it. They can go in and type in a question and they can get a response in a way they understand. That that is gold. And that's actually why I would say we could have structured data and return it back into unstructured data, because it does. If I as a CEO, as a board pack, yes, it works. Dashboards, I think, work as board packs. But if I'm working on a marketing campaign and I want to know what has my growth been per day on this particular campaign, I just want to sometimes just type it in. I don't necessarily want to ask. This is why I come back to building that bridge. I do think these tools can build the bridge. I think your thing is saying we're not ready for it.
yeah. So I'm saying technology is not right. I'm not saying it's not
Yeah,
doable. It is doable if you bring in all kind of metadata. Actually, agents can do it. You ask
yeah,
agent, hey, create a data model for financial. It will
yeah,
create a data model. Now this agent will have all kind of metadata, one tick. Second tick
yeah,
is once you pour in the data is going inside the data model using primary key, foreign key, all those. And agent knows how to profile data. Once agent profiles data, it knows what is the taxonomy and ontology sitting.
yeah,
Now when you pull that data out and put it to unstructured, along with that agents which has all the, it may work, but it become
yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. It's the expense of running it. Now, even on the unstructured data side, I'm putting together now some sentiment analysis. So I'm trying to extract companies, particularly customer service data, and how can we actually utilize that customer service data? Because customer service data has a very low ROI. It just puts out that particular fire at that particular time. So you got a problem, I've sorted that problem.
Yeah.
What if I have 100 people have that problem, but no one mentioned it? Well, we can start to build up an ideas of what's going on. But the thing is, with this, I have to run this through vector databases. I've been running it through an LLM to be able to get a response which is usable by a business user so they can query it with natural language. My problem is now I look at it and say, how much does this actually cost to run compared to the benefit that we're going to get? Now, I'm struggling to think that the cloud providers are producing or providing services which are so expensive that they cannot be rationalized into a lower enough cost to be able to get something decent out. But it is a really big question. And it's something where for data engineers are going to have to, and this is where they'll really earn their money and probably use chatbots and use agents as well to try to make it as efficient as possible.
Actually, I have kind of a semi answer to your problem statement because I've done that 8 to 10 projects on generative AI last year. Of course, I can't disclose details, it's
Yeah,
confidential.
yeah,
But the thing is, reality is, in unstructured world, which is generative as of now, privacy is a big issue. And
that's yes.
what happens? You throw everything into vector, and now 10 user comes. 10 user hits the same data, it goes into LLM, it goes into vector, it search based on different algorithm is a near search algorithm, different algorithms are there. You pull it and everything goes back into LLM memory, and then everything, now 10 users hit the same query, the whole data goes into memory. Now at the application level, you manage the access. Now the challenge comes here. If your access can be managed in the LLM world, it can become cheaper. But access is not, privacy is not manageable in unstructured world as of now. So whole millions of
Mm,
rows goes into memory and goes into 10 users and then break it down. So
but
that
we're not past,
is
yeah. I know this is technical thing, so this might not be
yeah,
so interesting for people to hear. But when you pass a query, you're passing it through your vector database. So you're that is within your environment still. So you have control over that. It's only what you're pushing back out to the LLM to
yeah,
get a response. And that often would be unless you were actually asking a customer specific question. Yes, if I was asking, how much money does Adrian owe? Then yes, that has gone out to the LLM. That has gone out to the LLM. So yes, we have to be careful on that, and we have to be careful on our guardrails on what level of information is passed, because otherwise we are pushing out potentially huge volumes of customer data. I attended an event recently, which was a consultancy working alongside a very large Dutch bank who wanted to bring in a chatbot, customer query chatbot, and they worked alongside Google, and this is the technology partner in doing this. And this was only to query, and they were quite clear, this is only to query the products, not the individuals, because they haven't got to that point yet. So I can ask a question and say, what current accounts do you have available? That's fine. I couldn't ask, how much money do I have in my current account?
mm,
There is that they've put the guardrails up there to say this, and this has already cost many, many millions of pounds. It has had training for literally over 1,000 people to be involved into it because they want to make it very much an AI focused company. So they're retraining their engineers around this, so they're much more AI functionalities functional as well. But it does show that actually, even after all of this, and to me, this is still actually basically a proof of concept. It has gone into production. So these customers at the bank are able to use this now, and they're able to get much better responses than they were from the previous, basically wildcard searches that they had from their chat facility. But it's not as a return on investment at that point is very low. As I say, it, to me, it's a proof of concept, but it's taken about 18 months, 2 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
And that's only using the most basic, publicly available, because it's all trained off the website. They tried to break it as much as they could, only available information. Yet getting to that point of asking individual questions about me and where it's huge. It's just it's questionable. I don't know how to ever get to that point.
Yeah, it will take time. Technology is not there. So we have a time check of 10 minutes max. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's narrow down our this agentic AI thingy on unstructured piece only.
Yeah.
Let's see what is doable now.
Yeah.
My as I just table it out, I feel if we run generative AI plus agentic AI agents only on unstructured piece, example is there is call centers sitting over there. Call centers can easily replaced by the agents because there
Completely.
are no numbers are involved.
They work off scripts as well.
Yeah,
Call centers work off scripts, so it's already automated.
yeah. A SharePoint documentation, FAQ, frequently asked questions, uh, something like those things where humans are doing repetitive work
Yeah.
with unstructured data. I personally feel, I think that is the use cases we should be focused on now, right now, rather than
Yeah.
structured piece. We have already discussed structured. What do you say about that? Because I also I'm looking for which use cases are visible, viable in this era.
Do you know, sometimes I actually ask the chatbot to give me user cases. I have an idea of something I want to do, and I'm like, okay, let's start talking the user cases here. You know, it's quite fun to be able to do that. It creates the own, it generates its own user case and my reason for living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the possibilities, and it was really interesting actually for you to mention about autonomous driving, because I think we only think about things at the moment in terms of almost reporting and facts, figures, and numbers. We're not thinking about AI as in the possibilities of what else it could do. No, there is vast possibilities of AI in the world of climate change.
Hmm.
Now, how we can utilize it, which it can make things more efficient in its running. Now we can create these AI agents which now would be looking to continually redeploy themselves or update tasks. Uh, my experience of an AI agent to be using it as a deployment tool worked very well with something from machine learning because it was constantly looking to see the statistical significance of variables and where it was seeing that actually these variables were becoming significant to go away and to change the machine learning code, obviously have a human in the loop because it could just do something silly because it could suddenly say there's loads of Adrians who are doing something, block them, um, which is just coincidental rather than actual learning from it. But then you can actually get it to deploy, and that was the bit which was always takes time, the actually deployment side. So there is, there's so many user cases I think out there. It's imagination. I think that for us as data people is going to be our really big human in the loop moment. Is actually it's our imagination and how we work with the business, how we work with every. This sounds too textbooky, but I'm going to say it anyway. How we work with stakeholders in saying, look, this is our usage. How can we add value here? And I think that's going to be the key is how we keep the adding the value part of it. So we look at it and say, well, no, actually, that would be too expensive to run. That is too difficult. That's likely to cause us problems. This is going to be cause us legal issues. This is going to be a regulatory absolute nightmare. This is the thing that here, well, actually, no, that makes complete sense to do this. Think of a time that we will be able to save and you can actually go away and do something else instead. That's where I see the user cases. I think it's not just going to be coming from a data world of us sitting and doing our best Harry Potter impressions and sitting in the cupboard under the stairs. It's going to be going out and talking to the business and really understanding what people's needs are.
Awesome. Awesome. So again, we have a time check of 5 minutes. Let's go towards closing this down. I think it
Okay.
was a great session, Adrian, and thanks for accepting our advice and invitation as well. And this is our first session. And it should not be our last session, I would say.
Good. What I've enjoyed actually is that we've not always agreed, and I think that is perfect for us to be at. I think it's not so much like we're going to be throwing things at each other, but it's so healthy to have the debate because no one really knows where we are or what we're heading towards. We have our own experiences, as you said as well, whether it's culturally or nationally or whatever it's going to be,
Yeah, yeah.
and how we perceive it and how we're going to work with it. It's just now, it's up to us now to keep our open minds.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the takeaway from my podcast is because I myself is a data guy for last 20 years and I am a solution architect. So my podcasts are normally pre-sales and techie kind of podcast where I do challenge my host, my guest, and we
Yeah,
do come to a different point of view. That's the whole idea. Traditional podcasts are something, and right, we never wrote down any questions. It was all on the flow. Right? We just went for it, right? And that's the beauty. I like talking to people, just randomly go in and discuss.
yeah, I think we do. I think we just got to keep. I've been quite provocative recently on LinkedIn, not on purpose, but I do want to have those challenges, and I think we need to have those sorts of debates where actually we do discuss where we think we're going. We don't have to always agree, but also about those existing paradigms that we have and how applicable actually are they to where we are now. Because we move so fast and so quickly that I think it's impossible to create models now. I do. I think it's impossible because technology has moved so fast in the last 2 years and continues to go at a pace which we just can't be able to do. So I think that'll be. I just do. Yeah, I think the more we talk, the more we'll learn, the more we'll understand. And as data people, I talked in my last part about how we should be out there talking, networking, gathering relationships. We should be doing that anyway. AI or no AI, it's the thing that we should be able to do.
Yeah, and you know why? Because we have only a couple of minutes left. You know why this is happening? Because I think it's our we data people fault. Because most of the technologies are driven or trends are driven by vendors,
Yeah,
product owners, not by data guys.
yeah.
Because when our new tool comes, a sales guy will come say, "Hey, this tool will do everything for you," just like
It does. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just like
Everything's
they
quite.
said about big data, right? You implement big data, everything sorted out. You implement generative AI, everything
Oh,
sorted. Now agentic AI has come, right? So I think
yeah,
it's a problem with us. Blame goes to us on data people. We have to keep debating and come to a conclusion.
yeah. I think actually this is one interesting point. I think we have to make this our last point. And then
Yeah,
I've spoken to other people about this. I think actually the whereas before it was us as data people or technology people making the purchases, these tools now, because I think they'll be going out to other people in the business who'll be wanting us to implement them. And I
yeah,
think that's the first. That's the first. Instead of us as the technology people, data people saying, look, we've done this and this is how you consume it. I think people say, actually, I want to consume this in a different way. And I've been told about this product which does this.
yeah.
And that's going to shake the market up massively because it's been going out to people from the revenue world, from the marketing world to the finance world. And they're the ones who are going to be saying, actually, we need to bring this in. And it's for data people who are going, oh, oh, I don't want you to bring it in because it's going to disrupt our world.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to at. That's where we come back to the ROI again and say, but actually, if we do bring it in, think of the ROI. Very selfish, but it is going to do it. And we have to adapt. We have to evolve. Otherwise, we're going to be like the dinosaurs and eventually we'll be going to become extinct.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I won't hold you on. Just last minute. Thank you so much, Adrian. Again, we will have a follow-up session, maybe a couple of quarters from here, where
Be
things
brilliant
would
too.
have will be changed, a new thing must be there, and we discuss again. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Unless our Terminator overlords are masters of the world. Sorry about my Slack keeps going off as well. It's been pinging off
Ah,
constantly.
it's okay.
Sorry.
It's
Sorry.
okay. No worries. Take care.
Okay. Thank you very
Cheers.
much for your time. Look forward
Cheers.
to seeing
Thank you.
it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.